Namaste. Gems from Savitri. So, today we read a passage about what is error. Very often people speak of error, mistake, one did this, one did that. But what does an error look like from the divine standpoint? From our standpoint, it is all right and perhaps necessary that we understand we have to make choices, we take this road and not this road, and it's part of our evolution. But what does it look like from the widest standpoint? So Sri Aurobindo has said so in aphorism also, and there is a whole passage of the mother where the mother says that more and more I see that there is no error. So, what is called error? Error is always an imperfect way to arrive at the perfect. And this is how we start, because we cannot straight away leap towards that. Say knowledge. So, how do we strive for knowledge? We can't have that ultimate knowledge of oneness. So, we try to read, philosophize, all this. We have concept. Now, this concept may be completely erroneous concept. But we form a concept, a system of knowledge. Then it is demolished. Then we have another system. So, like that. So, these are all errors of the mind about God. The divine escapes all conception. By the time we reach that point, we have to go through this mental exercise through which the mind widens, becomes plastic, supple, and eventually it is ready to receive the divine influx of the divine knowledge because it has gone through that and all this has collapsed. As Mother says that she had formed a very perfect synthesis of system within her head in that, cosmic philosophy. She used to contribute to those articles. But when she comes to Sri Aurobindo, all that collapsed. So that's because there is a whole preparation. Similarly, when we look at love, what is love? So initially, human beings, as she says in Savitri itself, that it starts from the mud, climbs to the sky. At first, it's an animal's desire, then a madness in the heart, then companionship, ardent companionship in the mind. Then you turn towards God. First, you love human beings, then you turn towards God. Then, ultimately, after you receive love, then you know, oh my God, what a mess I made of life. It was all wrong. But if you look at it like that, is one really ready to receive that divine love and ananda? No, because it's too intense. It will look cold. The mother says that if you touch divine love, most human beings will find it cold because, it is full of ananda, but that's not how we understand. So you have to go through this. Now, were they errors? Was it chasing illusions and appearances? She says this is how the being enlarges. There is a whole paragraph where she was asked about these illusions. She says that is the way of progress, not that it should be used as a... See, every spiritual truth can have a counter. Oh, okay, let us chase illusions. That's not what she's saying. She's saying it's inevitable in the course of evolution. Nobody will leap straight away to the divine love. Even if we leap toward divine love, let us say that we love the divine and there is nothing else in our life. Even that is not the final stage. She speaks about eventually, embracing this entire earth. But even then, initially the conceptions of the divine and our relation is very much marred in a human way. Viraha, Milan, Man, Apman, all these come. And Sri Aurobindo speaks of that vital bhakti is not what the core of this bhakti is. This bhakti is a psychic bhakti. It is not like, I am praying to you, why you didn't come, you are cruel. Exactly the same emotions that we throw upon human beings, we throw upon the divine. And Mother says, if you believe the divine is cruel and far away, he appears like that to you because it's needed for your progress. But the difference is, of course, if you tell a human being you are cruel and far off, he'll say, okay. A human being will say, fine, you find me like that. But when we turn to the divine, it's all very imperfect. But slowly we arrive at that conception that love is only about giving oneself. It cannot come by an intellectual idea. So that's why what we call as errors are steps towards the truth and light. So at one place in Savitri, Sri Aurobindo says, our error weds new truths on the way. That's how we progress. So here there is a wonderful passage where page 59, one who has shaped this world is ever its Lord. Nobody else is ruling. He's the Lord. So people will say, then why is all this happening? He knows his ways. We have to just submit and understand. He has his way. He knows what he's doing, why he's doing. So, but he is the Lord. Nobody else is the Lord of this world. One who has shaped this world is ever its Lord. Our errors are his steps upon the way. So, he is the one. Not only that our errors are our steps on the way. Mark the words. It is he who is, it's his journey. Quite some time back, this feeling arose inside that, Mother, it's your journey in me. And it was such a liberating feeling. It's not my journey, I am journeying to, it's your journey. In your own unique way, you are journeying within me as you are journeying in everybody else. So mark the words, our errors are his steps upon the way. He has made these steps. He is the one who is taking us through all this jigsaw puzzle of life. He works through the fierce vicissitudes of our lives. Fierce vicissitudes. So God is not just okay when I am sitting and doing meditation. Fierce vicissitudes. When everything is going topsy-turvy, perhaps that time he is most near. Whenever you see a Trinavrat is the demon of cyclone. It's shown in baby Krishna's story that one of the demons which came is Trinavrat. Wherever, now these stories of Krishna has many meanings. But one level of meaning is wherever the demon is there Krishna is also there. And is growing through him. Wherever there is Kaliya, serpent, there is the Kaliya Daman Shri Krishna dancing over his head. Wherever there is Putna who gives poisoned milk, there is again Shri Krishna who is absorbing that milk and releasing sweetness. Wherever there is Trinavrat who is taking us through a cyclonic storm, we don't know what's happening to our life. Everything is turning topsy-turvy. He's smiling inside it. So if you look at it that way, all the stories, all the demons at every level, he is there present. So why is he taking us through all this? See, that's in Krishna's story, we understand it. Why did he allow all this to happen? He is God. He should have just gone. When he's born, all the jailers fell asleep and the gates opened magically, miraculously. Why did he have to come all the way to, Nandgaon? He should have just remained there. And as Kansa entered, where is that child? That child would have just, given him a kick and there he would have gone. Neither Kansa deserved this. At that point of time, you have to deserve the touch of the Lord, even if it is a touch of wrestle. Kansa was not ready to receive it, nor the Brajvasis were ready to receive the reign of the Lord. So he says, let me prepare these guys and let me prepare Kansa also. So how does he prepare? Moving away from Kansa, he makes Kansa constantly think of him. That's what comes in Bhagavad at the end. That why did you give mukti to Kansa? He says, all the time he was thinking of me. Is it? Yes, with vair bhav. और कोई दुनिया में नहीं मिला था. He didn't find anybody except Krishna. So much so that toward the end, because he was originally a devotee of the Lord, Kansa and Sisupal. So toward the end, if you read through Kansa's life, toward the end, he doesn't trust even his most trusted generals. He is beginning to see Krishna everywhere. Has he come from here? Has he come from there? Has he come? I am going to be killed. All that. Because the ego is like that. It's afraid of the Lord. And the Lord is coming near. So on one side, by this process, he made Kansa ready for the liberation. On the other side, because he went to Braj, he was going to liberate them. But are they ready? Some new tyrant will come and sit. So he taught them, don't succumb to all this fear. That you have to give 80% tax to Kansa. No, Kansa is nobody. You can distribute the makhan here. You don't have to worry. You are praying to gods who they'll get wrathful. What kind of wrathful gods are there? Gods are always benevolent. So he eventually prepared them for receiving the reign when the kingdom comes. So all this narrative we will see God builds up in our lives. It's a story of our own soul going through all the struggles. God is all powerful. We want him to suddenly do things magically. But then we won't grow. So that's what he is revealing to us. He works through the fierce vicissitudes of our lives. He works through the hard breath of battle and toil. That's why Mahabharata. If there is no Mahabharata, It doesn't matter, even if, the kingdom is given to Yudhishthira, nobody will be ready to receive it. This readiness takes long time, even in the battlefield. See, this is the beautiful thing about the Gita and the Mahabharata. People often now, they have commentaries of the Gita, they do Gita part when somebody has gone away. All these people do. But where was Gita given? On the battlefield. If you shirk a battle of life, one doesn't deserve the Gita. And Sri Aurobindo says that if you want to have the Vishwarup Darshan, he says that in Essays on the Gita. Why it is given to Arjuna? It is given to Arjuna because he has not shrunk from the battle of life. Imagine if Arjuna stood by his sannyasi ideal, he would have missed the Vishwarup. So that integral Godhead is when there is no fear when we face the battle of life. So he works through the hard breath of battle and toil. He works through our sins and sorrows and our tears. Sins and sorrows also is there. Doesn't he condemn us? Doesn't he say, you Raurav Narak, Kumbhi Pak? What is sin? Sin is a preparation where we are leaving. At one place, Sri Aurobindo in what a description. He only could conceive like this. There's a poem, In the Moonlight. And towards the end, he uses the word sin to describe what are sin. They are our leavings as from deep within. What are the leavings? When we go into the bathroom in the morning, so we evacuate all the muck that is gathered inside. It is like vrittis being exhausted. What is sin? They are the leavings as from deep within. Look at that poem, maybe 4 lines. In the Moonlight, the last 4 lines. More sweetness to deserve, more strength to gain. So this is the process. We call it sin, but these are vrittis in nature. What really is sin? Animal consciousness lingering within us. What are sins? The dinosaur also somewhere asleep in the cells. They wake up. The divine understands it like that. What men call sin are but leavings as from deep within. Right? That's the line. So I'll just read these 4 lines. He leaves behind the ill. This is man's progress, for the iron age prepares the age of gold. What we call sin is but man's leavings as from deep within. For the pilot guides him in his pilgrimage. So you see, if you look at the history of mankind, you will see that there was an age when people are so barbaric and all this. So how they got rid of it? The vrittis changed. So all this tendency to battle and kill now changed into Olympic sports where people compete. The tendencies are still there, but they are being gradually sublimated. Then all this changes into the war within, battle within. So this is how the progress takes place. He leaves behind the ill with strife and pain, because it clings and constantly returns, and in the fire of suffering fiercely burns. More sweetness to deserve, more strength to gain. So it is a process. So he guides, he works through our sins and sorrows and our tears. His knowledge overrules our nescience. This is the biggest, take home point. So what is our nescience? We don't know. People are, but what can we do? We don't know. We don't know what is God's will. Nobody said that divine is not expecting that suddenly you will wake up and know what is God's will. You have a will? Yes, I have a will. Offer it to her, no. And say that I am doing what my buddhi is telling me to do. But you know everything. Overrule. So you see, give him that right, that he wants. So his knowledge overrules our nescience. Even if we don't give the right, still he will do it. But then we will feel very unhappy, because it may not be according to our will. So his knowledge overrules our nescience. So if such be the case, then what do we do? Life is, full of all kinds of things. So he says, whatever the appearance, we must bear. At one place, Mother says only 2 things are needed: endurance and faith. All the rest will come automatically. Whatever the appearance, we must bear. Whatever our strong ills and present fate. When nothing we can see but drift and bail, A mighty guidance leads us still through all. So, where is this guidance leading us? It will not, we cannot cut the what is called as the bond of ignorance just like that. We have to go through the process. That process is the Kurukshetra. It is through that the Dharmakshetra, that is the process, that is the path, the journey made for man. We can't escape it and say, now I'll sit and meditation and, suddenly one day I'll wake up with illumination. Most likely we'll wake up with, the asylum, candidate for asylum. So it is like when we work, when we go through life with open eyes, with trust in God, with all the challenges, then we are ready for the great disclosure. So what is that? After we have served this great divided world, God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right. We don't have to ask Him for that. It is marked out for us. One day when we have done what we were asked to do, or called upon to do, or meant to do, then what is the worry? He is there. He is waiting with all the bliss and oneness. We don't have to ask, I want bliss, I want bliss. It's there, but He will turn us toward that. Do that. No, bliss is the automatic consequence. A date is fixed in the calendar of the unknown. An anniversary of the birth sublime. What is the birth sublime? When first man's soul plunged into, that's called birth. Limited itself. Infinite limited itself. So there is a date which he has fixed for. The moment the bungee jumping took place, he had said that, okay, one day you will come back to me, but in a enriching the entire creation. That is the seed has gone into the earth, but it'll enrich with all the flowers and fragrance and colors. So in the beginning itself, he has put a tick mark. Just imagine, before one is going down, tick date will come. An anniversary of this date is not like a mechanical this thing, though one can say that there is a moment which is already marked out. An anniversary of the birth sublime, our soul shall justify its checkered walk. No human life is like straight. It has a checkered walk, night. Our soul shall justify its checkered walk. All will come near. That now is not or far. Where is this assurance coming from? Because Divine has undertaken this journey. He dwells within us. He dwells in creation. It is He who has willed that creation will become Anandamay. So we don't have to worry so much what will happen, this may happen, that may happen. What we should do is very calmly, open, become receptive, have full faith that He is leading us, whatever the appearance. Learn to endure the journey. Do the deed that He has put in our heart. After we have served this great divided world, God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right.